That's the wrong sound bite. It's not supposed to go over there.
Oh, dang. Wait. Start again.
Yeah,
Nobody saw. Shh. Nobody saw.
Welcome back to Get With The Programming. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler.
Wolverine.
One of these days, we won't screw it up.
Yeah, that just keeps everyone on their toes.
Hey, you guys get the real deal every day. Every day we come
lively.
This is the benefits of going live. The perils that make people afraid to go live are the things we lean into about going live.
Don't you think that's awesome? Like that right there. Yeah, but what if I mess it up? Who cares?
What if it's not perfect?
Who cares? That's what makes it great.
Melanie Hodge, Chase, you look naked. I feel naked. Yeah. I got a haircut. I got my face.
Same. I got my hair.
Good. You got trimmed up, clean. Look at us.
Dang. I know. I was looking, I don't want to say ragged, but I have a thick head of hair. Thank goodness. I love that about me. Thank goodness. A thick head of hair. When it gets going, it gets going. And you can always tell when I need to get a haircut because that's when you'll see me wearing the hat all the time.
Well, I'm surprised everybody thinks I'm usually like a bearded person. Like it's usually
not. Wear that more, dude.
The beard?
Sorry, Ashley. He needs to have the beard.
You know who hates the beard more than my wife?
Your kid.
My mother-in-law.
Oh. All right. I can buy that. I get it.
Hates it.
Really?
But here's the best part is that my father-in-law has a mustache and has had since he could grow one. And so whenever I get crap for it, I'm like, you're married to one of these. She's like, I didn't mean I like it. I'm like, man, and then you put up with a lot. But you know who is the most sad? Because I did this yesterday. I shaved yesterday. I took my son to a birthday party. Two people. Two groups of people. I took my son to a birthday party, bunch of kindergarten boys. They're all playing basketball. There's like 20 to 25 of them. They're all in different classes, but they all kind of play sports together. And I coach half of these kids.
Yeah.
And I show up and the kids are like, did you cut your hair? I'm like, yes. It's like, you look weird.
I know. I asked my daughter if I should shave my beard because she's always grabbing my beard. And she's like, you would look weird. You would look weird without it. I'm like,
I'm curious because I saw Savon had sent us that link of the behind the scenes only 3 from the 2014 regionals.
Yeah.
And you didn't have facial hair. You just had your old Wolverine chops.
That's right.
Soccer Mom. If you haven't watched Chase, on the Glinton podcast. Oh, thank you. That was a really cool podcast.
I'm supposed to be on it this weekend.
Are you? All right, cool.
Yeah, we've been trying to get our time to work. You know how, dude, it's hard enough for us to get our own times, let alone.
Yeah.
You know.
But so to finish out the facial hair story, I was putting my daughter to bed. And she her bedtime routine, she's like, she'll give me a number of kisses she wants. She's like 5 kisses. I'm like, he's like 4 hugs, and then hug and squeeze her. And then she's like 8 tickles or something. Like that's the order of events. But last night she started grabbing my face. She's like, I don't like it. I want your mustache back. And I go downstairs like, guess what? To me, that's like Endgame Avengers. I love you 3000. Right?
Yeah.
That was like our moment. She's like, I don't like this. I was like, guess what our daughter just said? She said she missed the mustache.
I'm going to have to put it back on.
What am I supposed to do? She's like, you're not married to your daughter. I was like, yeah, So it was really cool.
That is cool.
Really cool. Welcome to the show, everyone. We will have Adrian Conway here in just a little bit. He's tidying up some things, and he's going to join us to talk team programming. We talked individuals last week. They're still not on the game site.
Isn't that dumb?
I don't know.
It's not even. It's not even. This isn't even an earmuffs thing. It's like we gotta. It's not. How is it not on? It was so funny. I started to go look back on them, and I was like, wow, that one looks. Are they doing a repeat for the teams? That's crazy that they have that on there. And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's a 23.
Oh yeah, that's like all repeats. Like
I'm
no,
like,
no.
they're holding the sandbag again.
Yeah, yeah. But before we get there, I do want to say a big thanks to Element 26, who allows us to do these things for our show, and they have been a huge supporter of us since the very beginning. Fun fact, they're on Amazon right now. So you can go to element26.co, or you can go to Amazon and get free shipping if you're a Prime member in like the next day. So like, I need thumb tape now. Go to Amazon. It's their Element 26 page. They've got everything on there, all the grips, all the thumb tapes. And this little cool thing here, for every purchase, you get access to their free workout app. So that's a new thing.
Who's Dr. Phil? Is that like the Dr. Phil?
I don't know.
He's going to give you like workout program and tell you what you need to do in
That
your
would be
life
interesting.
just to be a better life person.
Yeah. But things that I love, this hybrid belt, it's a leather belt, but it's Velcro strap. So you don't have to do like the thumb or the,
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like, the thing I hate about the big bulky leather belts is, other than I feel like they're going to crack my floating ribs every time I put them on. But it's like buckling it and unbuckling it, which I think some people do like, or the clamp ones that the power lifters use.
No, I hear you.
It's Velcro and it's leather, so it feels good. Yes, thanks, Augustus. Latch. But everything on here, you can get it the next day. But if you use our code, this is a special code for Amazon, but it's GWTP 15E26. So 15E26. If you use that, and I just put it in the chat, it's 15% off on Amazon as well. So not only can you get it at element26.co, just use the code GWTP15. If you go to Amazon and just go to the store, not only can you get free shipping if you have Prime, and what's the point of having Amazon if you don't have Amazon Prime?
Exactly.
Let's be real. You can get next day and 15% off using the code GWTP15E26. So just want to say thanks to those guys. They're just they're awesome partners for us for the show that helps us do all these things and new shows and build outs, and they just make it possible for us to do a lot of things. So I want to thank them. And speaking of things that are coming up, we have in the works 3 shows coming up this week. We've got Jeremy Teal, old OG CrossFit himself, 2008 CrossFit Games podium, third place.
Third placer. That's right.
From CrossFit Central. And Bryce Collier, who's running basically two of the largest conglomerates in the CrossFit affiliate space with CrossFit Central and Coda CrossFit. So they got Texas and Oklahoma. They've got it. And I think Coda actually has a gym in Colorado as well. But these are the 2 guys. Jeremy is TFX, the Fittest Games, what it used to be called. It's now the Fittest Experience. But what they do is they actually have their own little live qualifiers for this event, different than anything in the space right now. And not pound for pound, but it's one of the largest CrossFit events from end to end in live competition in the world. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming on the show on Wednesday to talk about how they've got to the point where they gotten to. And then Bryce is actually the man behind the programming these days, as of recent late. And so we're going to talk to those guys for about an hour about the Fittest Experience. It's local here in Texas. It's based out of Austin, Texas. But I mean, TFX is one of the biggest events in the country off-season wise.
Yeah, it's huge.
On par. Like they could just get all the names. And what I like about them is it's not just elite, it's more like a Wadapalooza for the Central US, where just massive division. So they're going to come on the show. We're going to talk shop with those guys. Inside the Leaderboard is coming back. We're planning to do that on Thursday.
Yes.
And hopefully by then, we will have the new updated world rankings from CrossFit based off the last 2 years of competition post-open. They haven't updated them yet. Hopefully by then we do. And then what we're going to do by Thursday, all individuals will have accepted their semifinal invitations. So this is what it all comes down to. Going into semifinals, not only will we have CrossFit's full top 100 and their game spot allocations that they have ready to go, but we can do a one-to-one comparison for real life comparison about who is qualifying, of which we'll make a top 100 athletes out of the pool who is legitimately competing in person. And we'll see the difference between the two to show you exactly why it's important. And this doesn't involve the opening quarters anymore.
Nope.
What we want to show you is that game spot allocations based off the strength of field that will actually be competing versus 2 years of whatever it is in CrossFit system, which I'm super pumped about.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the comparison.
And then, listen, I'm proud of this thumbnail. I'm just going to say this right now. CrossFit Jeopardy is back Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Central. Keith Knapp is defending his title. Andrew Hiller will be coming on the show, and Aaliyah Miller will be coming on the show. I took some liberty with their thumbnails, if you guys don't know. But I've always said Aaliyah Miller would make a great professor at Hogwarts. So I already sent it to her and got the approval.
That's good that you did.
She's like, she thought it was hilarious.
Oh, that's cool. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
she thought it was hilarious. So that is who we will have on Jeopardy. And if you want to do yourselves a favor, for all of you guys that come in the chat, you're like, oh, dang it, I missed the start. You see this little button right here that says notify me? Go over there, click the button. Look, notifications on.
Boom.
Notifications on. All right? Or even better, come down here. Click that join button. Join us. Join the memberships. That helps us afford amazing people like Barkley Dale and Mike Halpin for shows just like this one. So that will be Friday. So CrossFit Jeopardy is coming back for the 3rd episode. Keith Knapp is the defending champ who overthrew John Young. No, Augustus, John Young needs to win again. So it'll be different. And then Hiller's coming on. He's pumped. And Aaliyah had messaged me. She's like, I can do this. I'm like, all right.
I love it.
So it's going to be great. And so now let's get to it. Not only was the excitement of individuals getting released, but the team events got released as well. And to join us, I cannot tell you how perfect the timing was.
Dude, seriously, that was crazy.
How perfect the timing was. To join us is the only man to ever defeat Rich Froning in team competition with Wasatch Brutes. And that's Mr. Adrian Conway. Adrian, I don't know if you know how the show works or have ever seen it, but
I've seen it, of course.
So I have something for you.
Uh-oh.
A little gift from me to you. And that is your own personal soundbite intro.
Damn, Ron, come on! What's the matter with you?
Don't act like you don't know this, dude.
There is no tomorrow.
Our own
Never.
Apollo Creed.
That's right. I should have only rocked the mustache.
Dude,
Yes.
you were rocking it for a while.
I had it for a while. I should have.
So good, by the way.
That's
Next
a great
time,
one.
listen, I'll just bring it back for the next time I'm on the show alone. I will bring back the mustache only, regardless
Well,
of what my
you
wife
got
said.
your soundbite now, sir. So it's in the bank. It's on the board. I was trying to think. I was like, what would be good? I was like, I know what would be good. Mr.
There is
Apollo.
no tomorrow, baby.
There
There's
is
never
no
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
That's right.
There is no tomorrow.
That's
Well,
right.
hey, we're going to talk about. Thanks for joining us, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry I'm late, guys. I finished up my athlete calls this morning and got to it as soon as I could.
One of the hardest working man in the biz. I'll tell you that. Well, hey, we hadn't even started yet. We were about to segue into it, and
cool.
we're gonna go event by event, talk some strategy based off what it is, review the team events themselves. Obviously, there's like the individuals, there's still a lot of details that we don't know that could potentially make or break how people approach this. So let's kick it off right off the bat. And team event number 1. And what I see with this one is you got 30 rope climbs, 120 wall-facing handstand push-ups. Oh, Bill, they changed the name.
I know. Did you see that?
They changed the name. Conway, chest to wall. Come on.
Chest to wall.
Chest to wall handstand wall facing handstand. Good for
It's really
you guys.
Look at that. Look at that.
150 cals on the Echo bike, finishing up with a 48-foot handstand walk each. It says accumulate anyhow. The non-working athletes must hold the worm. So what I see here is I see team event 1 from last year. with the bag hold being like if you put it down, the double unders had to stop, right? The different machines. So instead of the monostructural, everybody gets some work done. Now we have a little bit of everything, right? We've got gymnastics more, the cow echo bike there, obviously the handstand walk. So this is a more gymnastics version of last year's first event at semifinals. But then you throw in the worm hold, where 3 are holding, 1 is working. And that's something you experienced. And what we just talked about was it the finale of the CrossFit Games in 2017 for the teams?
Yep.
Now that was with
finale.
6 people, right? But right off the bat, for those that don't really understand the worm hold and the toll that's going to take on the athletes that are just sitting there holding weight for time caps 25 minutes. I think everybody's looking at maybe the wall facing handstand push-ups, but I think towards the end, that worm's going to take its toll.
Oh, that worm is going to tremendously add up. And the reason I liken this to even last year, which you brought up, Chase, is because we saw some of the most amazing / hilarious things happen with the bag for those poor individuals who were stuck with it at the end of the like, I mean, like bodies convulsing, right? Like they're just like everything that they could do. They're like, please God, no, like, let me drop this thing, but my team is counting on me. And I really think that as we even progress through the 120 wall facing handstand push-ups here, because of what the rope climbs and the wall facing handstand push-ups are going to do to the midline, and they're breathing heavy, I feel like it's just going to add up and feel so different from rep 1 of the rope climbs to entering into those calories on the echo bike, that we're just going to see some very different body positions, postures, and it's going to lead to a little bit of panic from some of these teams, at least in my assumption.
Do you feel like they'll be cool until they hit that echo bike? And then once the legs and the lungs start to go and that heart rate starts to go up and it doesn't recover on the worm, that's when people get into panic mode?
Yes. Simply put, yes, that is what it'll happen. Because I think, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but it's like when I look at this workout from a general perspective, and I think about the skill sets and the capacity that's going to be at the high level at every semifinal for the top teams. Like rope climbs are going to be quite a big separator, not because people can't do it, but because the way you navigate up and down on a rope for 30 stinking reps, and you got men and women traversing that thing, like there's going to be an opportunity for great separation there. But are the people that climb the rope well going to be the same people that bang out 120 while facing handstand push-ups? And that might be, of course, at large, the biggest opportunity to create separation. So then we're going to have urgency and desperation on the bike. You're going to have the big rigs like me coming in being like, yo, I didn't carry as many handstand push-ups as I wanted from my team, so I got to do something special here. And if you try to do something special on the bike, folks, while you got to go home, hold the worm, it could be real bad. Like you outstretch yourself on the bike, it's going to be bad when it's your turn to go back to the worm. What were you going to say, Bill?
I was just going to say, how do you think the pit stop of going back to the worm is going to be? Do you see possibly, like it says, non-working athletes must hold the worm. So do you think anyone will go in, like, do you think it's going to be only one person working and 3 people going? Or do you think someone might be, I mean, like, because we don't know what the layout's going to look like. We don't know how far it's going to be.
What the
that transition of moving people back and forth. Are you going to cycle that person through, or like that pit stop is always such a pain to have to deal with on a team. That lag time, are you going to put 2, like on the rope climb? Is someone going to stay there for 5 and then come back and rotate, or are you going to have 1 and 1 and 1 where you're constantly trying to loop it that way? Like, what for a team? Like, what's the best strategy to do that? Or is that totally just athlete dependent?
It's very much team dependent, but there's no doubt about it. You're nailing exactly, like, in the weeds, like what's going to separate success from failure, like marginal victory to, a really close loss, is that there are going to be teams that have athletes with the capacity to go 6 straight rope climbs without slowing down once. And then they're going to tag out because they notice that they're slowing. And then there's going to be teams that are like, hey, I'm really slow. I can only do 2 at once. And the more transitions you make, especially off and onto that rope, that's really going to penalize you down the road. And then equally, I think it's the same thing as we navigate forward. Now, when we look at calories on the bike, that's where it's like, okay, boys, what you got? right? Because we know pound for pound, what's going to happen is that the men are going to be able to carry more weight on the bike in regards to calorie expenditure, and everybody's still going 150. So the teams that have men with the fitness and the high power output on the bike that can hang there more and accumulate calories faster will have a natural advantage going into the handstand walk, all things considered.
That's a good point.
Do you think this is another or even an even more blatant look at the better girls you have on your team, the better team you're going to have? Because of those, because you got rope climbs.
I think it depends on where.
And you got the Echo bike.
Yeah, go ahead, Chase. What were you saying?
I think it depends on where they'll be good, because you might have some good girls who can knock out the wall facing handstand push-ups because they're smaller and lighter. But is that an advantage? Is that more of an advantage or less when you get to the bike?
Right.
And I agree. I agree. That would have been my sentiment exactly to Bill. Your question is like, yes, certainly that will matter, but it is really where the females excel. And then this is where we get in the weeds down the road when we're talking about all the other events, but how it all comes together through the course of the weekend at large is like, oh, okay, how does this all now play out? Because for this event, it's like, yes, if your women can carry high volume of gymnastics, your team naturally will have an advantage here, because the men can support the bag early. The women can do their work. The men can carry the load on the Echo bike if possible. And then, of course, we're all just walking on our hands as best we can.
I like the openness for a lot of different strategy here, to where you can maximize the strengths and minimize the weaknesses of your team. The last thing I'm thinking about here, other than say, like Bill, you were talking rep scheme, and it's like, hey, is it 6s? Is it 10s? I think towards this, it's more like, am I slowing down so it's time to rotate? Because really, based off the rotation with 3 people, you're not going to really put yourself in a hole depending on how many you do. Obviously, don't go to failure for anything. But if I'm in a position where, like, look, my pace is great, I feel fine, and it's keeping going, right? Or if it's even less, like, hey, I'm doing 2 or 3, I'm starting to slow, it's like, we got to get them out. So I think towards the end, it's less rep scheme dependent and more is like, are we cycling quicker? Or are we slowing down to get the same number of reps? Might be that decider of how some people rotate towards the end.
I really hope that because you're right. I mean, it's going to be communication with the team, communication with the athlete to say like, hey, I only got 1 more, or I can only do a couple more. I hope, just to make it even more exciting, that the worm is a decent distance away. Yeah. Because that way it forces people to be out there a little bit longer than they want to.
Actually does have an impact.
Yeah. I think that
would you're not going to just trade 1 rope climb a piece.
Right,
now.
right.
I'm losing 2 rope climbs worth. That'd be another interesting point. So I'm excited to see how this plays out. As a broadcaster, maybe not excited to call this one.
There's gonna be so much stuff going on. It'll be so hard to call.
It can't be harder than Team Event 1 from last year.
Hey, can we request something? Chase, can we just say, hey guys, if you're on a team, wear the uniform they give you so you got numbers and everything else out there? Can we just be like, hey,
please, yes,
help us out, help us to help you, us to help you, that it'll help us identify.
But they can't complain that you're not saying the right people's names and you're calling the wrong person, and then they have nothing.
Or just wear all the same thing at least.
That helps.
Or maybe just put your team name on your body. I don't know. They do it in fights, right? Just put that big tattoo on your back and. All right, Team Event 2. Now, the cool thing about Team Event 2 is that it's a repeat of an individual test from 2022. Right? This is actually the individual weightlifting event when they brought standardized programming back in 2022, and this was the lift. And 3 cleans anyway, 2 front squats, 1 jerk, or shoulder to overhead. I don't think anybody's like push pressing this, so I think we can confidently say jerk of any kind. One thing to note is that the things that was tagging everybody in the individual 2 years ago was bringing that bar down a little too early on the clean portions for those. But basically, max load total for team. Now, of the 5 events, having a pure lifting test is interesting that they have this for the teams, but they said that they don't necessarily want that for the individuals. So. But that's more of the that's an analyzing side. We'll kick the what's and the whys. But when we look at what this is whenever I see lifting events, I'm glad it's a complex. It's not just a 1 rep max deal. But 2 things can happen. Your superstar can save your team, if not win it for you. Or you have me on your team, and I can sure as hell lose it for you based off that. Adrian, you see this as a callback from the individuals and the teams. What was your first impression?
I like it. I equally like that it's a complex, that it gives people an opportunity to express, their strength and power. And there's a unique skill set here in the barbell complex in itself. In regards to where it fits with everything else that is here, I akin the worm work a lot to like a deadlift and a clean and a press. So from a critical perspective, from like a feedback, like I'd almost like to see the strength work be outside of something just pulling off the floor and pressing overhead, right? And I understand we got the front squats and you guys get that too.
Yeah.
But for me, from a variance standpoint, these movements mimic what we do with the worm already. So again, it's valid. It has a place. I'd like to see it maybe just a little different flavor. And I'm just being biased towards my own flavor.
Well, we do have a lot of worm work here, to your point. And, my constructive thought is 20%, as JR just put in here, which, he usually signs off on this too, but 20% of your bid to the games is hindering on a max lift with your team. So, but we'll see will we see anybody in the teams put up basically a event record from 2022?
I think we will. I mean, that's the thing about the team. They usually have people that are a little bit more specialized than you do in the individual side. So you're going to have your big hosses out there, guys and girls side, that will be able to put up some big numbers. I mean, what was fun about watching it? Right, exactly. What was fun watching in the individual version was, I mean, people were swinging for the fences. I mean, in reality, I think there were some of like the best fails that we've seen in a long time of people failing on the jerk.
Luckily, it was uninjured failing, because there was one where I thought someone died.
But right, but it was because people were really trying to go for it. And I agree with JR that I don't think that you need to have a something that's as close to a pure strength event being 20% of all of the score. I agree with that. Was a good point that you brought up, Adrian, about with the worm. I mean, you're pulling from the ground and you're putting it overhead, and that's clean and that's jerks, and we're doing that a lot with the teams with the worm. But I think it is interesting to have it out there. At some point, you knew the team was going to do that, and if they were going to do this, I would rather see a complex by far.
I'm glad it's a complex.
Yeah, well, it has to be. If it was a clean, that would have been a waste. I just we have said that so many times, how that pure strength is just not. It just doesn't equal out right.
Now, little details that we don't know, which can change, is what's the format?
What's the time frame?
Individuals was they got 3 opportunities in this little round robin snake draft kind of a deal. Is it okay? Everybody gets 2 or 3 attempts, or is it 4 like that? I mean, at the games, was it games last year where they did snatch and clean and jerk? Everyone got 2 attempts on the teams. Yep. So how is this going to go? Is it going to be you got 10 minutes as a team to collectively do this? Is it men first, women second, or vice versa? Or is it like there's still a lot of details here that we don't know that could change the way this one is approached. But that is the second event. The third event, Adrian, you talked about the worm. Not dissimilar from what we see on the individual event number 1. The teams are going to take a run at it, just a little bit different. 5 rounds for time, 800-meter run, 15 worm thrusters. And if I had to compare the two, I would take the individual event all day,
without even a question, dude. Wow. Wow. I mean, we've talked about so many times about what the worm. The worm is such a staple. And granted, these teams have gotten so good at it, but how many times have you seen a minute bobble in the worm and then it just makes the team implode? The worm is all over the place. It looks like it's one of those used car sales balloon guys, waving back and forth on these guys' shoulders. And to be that exact as you are getting tired and really pushing that run, these worm thrusters are going to be, they're going to be so bad, horrendous, gross.
And you look at this, is that, okay, things we don't know, what they're going to run on, how the run's going to be done. We don't know if the worm's going to have to move and how many. I would assume, based off what we've seen in the past, maybe per round, the worm's going to advance somewhere. But when you're approaching this, right, we see teams that'll either come out unbroken and be in the lead, and then you see teams like, well, let's just say recency bias, mayhem, doing 5 with a breath, 5 with a breath, 5, advance last in round 1, and then by the 5th round, they're the only ones in that 5th round spot. How would you approach these worm thrusters each round, or how are you approaching these for this particular event if you had a team?
Yeah, I mean, and those are all great considerations. This workout, let me just say, this reminds me a lot of what we did in 2017 at the games. It was the first workout in the Coliseum. I forget if it was like workout 3 or workout 2, but it was row and worm thrusters, and that was it. It was a couplet, and it was disgusting, and it was just like, cool. Everybody had their own rower, so we all went the same distance, and then all of a sudden we got off and we had to go to work. But this test is going to be very much a psychological and emotional test for a lot of these teams, because you are going to have some people that are very good at running, and then you're going to have some people that are very good at lifting and with the worm, and then you're going to have those athletes that are struggling with each of those aspects at different times. And it's how you can hold that weakest link together. Does one of your strongest running males need to put a hand in the low back of the slowest female? Does that help her push forward to keep the pace of the pack, or whatever's going down? Oh, there it goes. Worm squats. But the idea is that, like, I think, what I would do is I look at this rep scheme, and I'm either going to put something together like 5 with a pause for 3 sets, but I'm going to keep the worm on our shoulder. I don't want to pick that thing up any more times than we need to. So the 5 times that we got to pick it up from the ground is the only times that we're going to pick it up. Mm-hmm. And if my team feels good coming out of the gate with 5 with a pause, and so that we're taking 3 rest intervals for 15 reps, then we're gonna have something in our back pocket where it's, okay, this one's we're going 8-7. This next one maybe we're going 9-6, and then on the final round we're going 15 smooth, and we're never pausing if we've got that capacity. Yeah. Because when I look at this, I recognize very quickly this is a run workout, and at least if this is how it's written, right? If this is 800 meters and then we're running, right? Like, this is running for the fittest teams. This is running for, unless you're really, really poor on the worm, this is just running. And it's the running of your weakest link, and how can they hold it together for this,
what if it was like
1 minute where you're doing thrusters,
4 by 200 meter relay for every 800?
Then it scares me even more. It scares me even more. And then I'm like, okay, now how do we figure this out? Because now we got to bleed a little. Even more when it comes to intervals, because every second counts. Right. It's like, I need to tag off Bill's hand as fast as I can to get him on that treadmill or to get him on that course. Yeah. So that would be wild. I love that speculation, because I'd be like, oh, buddy, that makes it even harder to gamify for me.
That would be awful. And this one is not unlike what we just saw with the weightlifting one. This is a weak link test, because if you have one person that can't move the bar, your team is not going to be successful. If you have one person that just can't hang at the pace that you need to as a team, right? You're basically running at the pace of your slowest person, and you're moving at the intensity of their capacity.
Yep. Yeah, this is what I like here, man, is that this exposes running on the teams earlier in the season than I think we've seen a lot of times previously, right? We're running shorter, like more lactate-based intervals, but to do this 5 rounds, 800-meter repeats, some of these team athletes are going to show up and have them run 5 by 800 in their training all year. And they're going to have to run 5 by 800 in the middle of a workout with worm thrusters. So at least if that's is written and we're reading it right, it's going to be devastating some of the squads.
Man, now that I backtrack this before we go to 4, like, I see gymnastic capacity here being a limiting factor for the team. I say weightlifting strength, stamina here, and now I see endurance. So maybe I don't know. It's one of those, the more I talk it out, maybe there is a bit more balance in here than I really gave him credit for. All right, this one, event 4. This is a straight out of the 2018 team regionals. Adrian, remember the one where it was bike for cows, male, females, and the partner deadlifts? Yep. That just broke every dude off in the world.
Yes. The only time you ever saw Sam Dancer like buckle.
When Sam Dancer is getting bent over a barrel in deadlifts, maybe we misprogrammed this. But you've got 3 rounds for time. Now here's the deal. It's male, female, pair 1. 3 rounds for time, 30 cal row, 30 overhead squats. Second pair, it's basically bulk sets, 90 and 90. Things that we don't know that would have a massive impact is it like what it was in 2018 where they went side by side and did pairing here, right? And so what you see there is like, all right, we're both rowing 30 cows. Maybe it's 30 and 20 for you, or how it's going to go. And are these overhead squats synchronized? Are they together? Are they separate? Right? Like there is so much here we don't know that could, like, if this was all synchro work versus say break up, like those are two totally different universes of an event.
Very different. I mean, we're talking.
It's not synchro. There's no way. 90.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to have these guys do 185 pounds for 90 overhead squats. No way.
And I'll tell you right now.
But you're right. It's a question.
Bill. But let me tell you. If only I could hope that were true, right? Because I want it so badly to just be synced up. I want it to be synchro. So then people, you know what we could put to bed? All the people who are like, yeah, I'm going to go team. It's a little easier. Oh, right? Are you?
Yeah,
Is it easier? Are we all having the same discussion now? Because good luck with this thing, if that's what you think, right? Like, man, that would be so devastating.
The first team event of last year's CrossFit Games. Remember that one? That like nobody finished? You guys remember that? Accumulate 175 overhead squats.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the little 222 buy-in, I don't even know what the weights were for these. Was it 155 and 105 maybe? Nobody finished this.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was either.
Nobody finished this. I think it was 155.
I think it was 155, 105.
And that was synchro. But look, it doesn't say synchro here though. Just says accumulate 175 overhead squats.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you.
No, it does say it says max rack synchro overhead squats right below the rope.
All right. Look, I'm just reading.
I know.
Apparently, I'm not reading, but I don't see. Well, we'll see. But this one, man, now it's male female pairs. Okay, are we going to be better partitioned or bulk? Who's the best one? Row overhead squat. This is a lot up to the teams. That shell game.
Yeah, right? This brings a lot of things into consideration, but I will say I think this there's a couple things speculation wise. If this is synchro, I mean, good luck everybody, right? Like that's pretty much all I'll say.
With 16 minutes.
Yeah, 16 minutes. It's going to be
16-minute AMRAP.
It's only for the advanced athletes. Only for the advanced athletes.
Yeah, maybe it's 16-minute cap per pair.
Right. Yeah. Right. So if they didn't include that and that's the way it is, then that makes sense. But what I'd say is honestly, if I look at this and it's the way that we're assuming that we can break up work, that these two workouts are more similar than they are different, right? Like I think it's a cool play on how it presents, but realistically, it's still going to be 1-to-1 work to rest. You're going to be heading back to the rower, of course, a couple times if you're doing it for the 3 rounds for time. But really, the choice is, hey, are you better at a chipper style workout where local muscle endurance is often the limitation? Or are you better at higher power output and where the movement combination isn't necessarily going to limit you, but it's more the cardiorespiratory limitation that you can lean into. So that's just, but not all teams have that ability to make those choices, right? And that's where we have the hard choices. Like some athletes.
What do you think? What do you think of this little strategy, Adrian? Male female pair. And if this is not, and take it as not synchro. Take it as not synchro.
Yes, love it.
Male goes on the row, and the women go on the overhead squats because of that lighter 125-pound bar.
Yes, 100%. And I don't know that it needs to be absolute, like male row all, female row all, but that is the way, Bill. 100%. That's the way. Yeah. Because when we look at it, and I'm sure you guys have had this conversation on this podcast a ton, but it's like when we know we are cycling weights that are sub-maximal, like not 80% and above for most of the athletes doing it as prescribed for 1 rep maxes, like that 70 percentile for the females, they cycle so much easier and at such a faster clip. Yeah. So when you take that and then understand that the men can carry more weight and have a higher output on the row, you can make money there, and then you can make money on the overhead squats with the females. So that's an awesome strategy.
Yeah, I like that too. All right, I hope it's not synchro, because then teams can really get exciting on how they switch people in and out, other than just like staring at each other blankly, knowing that they have to overhead squat together again. All right, the finale. Team event number 5, 4 rounds for time, 5 synchro muscle ups pair 1, 5 synchro muscle ups pair 2, 10 worm clean and jerks as a team, 15 synchro burpees over the worm as a team, and then 1 section of worm walking lunges. Things that are not designated here is how those pairs are combined. Male, female, mixed. So we don't have those details. What kind of muscle-ups they are. So it says muscle-ups.
Yep.
To me, whenever I see muscle-ups programmed by CrossFit, it's the same as a clean. Is it squat? Is it powered? If it doesn't say anyhow, where's it going to be? 4 rounds for time, 16-minute cap. Man, this is just a freaking... This is going to suck bad. Like if you're on that team trying to like keep a qualifying position or get into a qualifying position, and what you're going to have to do those last round or two on the clean and jerks and burpees and lunge. Like, I just see this last round of 10, 15, and 1 being absolute pandemonium for the teams. More structured teamwork than we've had so far, actually. Right? 10, 15, 1, everybody's working together. There's no breaking up. There's not much gaming here other than maybe the singles that you do. I think if you do touch and go on the worm clean and jerks, you've decided that you don't want to be successful at this event.
It is kind of interesting that they have that split between working pairs and then the whole group together like that. You know, because the majority of it, the clean and jerks, the burpees over the worm lunge, like that's the entire team going together.
Halpin, first thought was one on the bar, one on the rings for the muscle ups, like Wadapalooza did. Interesting.
That's kind of cool. What about you, Adrian? When I see muscle ups, I just think I usually will default to ring muscle up.
Yeah, in my head, I default to ring just out of the assumption like hardest level to me. Like that's where I jump to. So yeah, that's what I assume out of the gate. And I love what you bring up, Chase, about the singles with the worm clean and jerks. And it doesn't matter how many times we say it or how many times you say it.
Every
or how many times
year,
we watch people blow up and die. So we should start to, I don't know what I'm probably not supposed to do any gambling on the events, seeing as how I'll be covering some of them. But there should be an app betting on how many teams are going to try touch and go reps.
Dear Tyler Watkins of the Heat One app.
Get it going, Heat One.
You have yourself a prop bet. JR, fastest teams go touch and go. I'm telling you, the fastest teams will not go touch and go. Unless you talk about the fastest team in round 1.
And that's every year it's that way.
Every year.
Every single year.
Now, one day we'll be wrong, right? Because I thought nobody would do 20 ring muscle ups at the end of the quarterfinals workout. And here comes Augustine.
One person in the entire world, dude.
It's starting to happen. Maybe a dozen teams, who knows? There will be a time, but I'll still bet that today is not the day.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what you have to consider is the work to finish each round, right? Like, could teams do touch and go? Yes. Could the fittest team in the world do touch and go? Yes. If you think, Peak 360 isn't out there practicing a ton of touch and go work and all the different variations and everything, Invictus, like these guys are all doing all that stuff. But when you consider that there's 15 synchro burpees to finish each round and the lunge, there are people's fitness. So, if all fitnesses aren't created equal and the two men struggle cardiorespiratory wise compared to the females, after those 10 worm touch and go clean and jerks, they're suffering way more than the women. And then all of a sudden they got to keep up with them on the clean and jerk or the burpees. And then you get a no rep because someone touched their chest late. And then you got to do another burpee. And it's like, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
99.999 times it is not. But we're going to see people try it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll be sitting there with a bag of popcorn and a huge sign that said, "I told you so."
Oh my goodness.
Well, overall, thoughts on the team competition this year for semifinals. It's only 5 events. Usually it's like, all right, we got to shore up. We can't have too much specialization there. But as I said, what I thought would be too hyper-focused on maybe that one strength event when I backtracked and look at what event 1 was and what event 3 was and what the main factors of those are. Mm-hmm. It was a bit less, I would say, skewed than I thought it was going to be. And then you have the pairs in the 4th, and then you have the whole team working in the 5th. Actually, the more I talk it out, the more of a balance I see. Heavy on the worm work, but, that's team competition. It's kind of a necessary piece of the puzzle there. But overall, Adrian, how do you feel about the events?
I like them too, man. And I think, I tread very lightly, and people recognize this with some of the social media posts and everything I give in regards to opinions. Like I tread lightly with being too critical of a lot of programming because I coach so many athletes, and I really want them to have this mindset of like, whatever comes out, like we're going to do it and do it well, and we'll train for it. And if they ain't ready, that's my fault and partially on them, and we got to just be better, right? So I tread lightly, but equally, here's some feedback that I would give is, and I'm curious. So when we look at 5 rounds for time, 800-meter run, 15 worm thrusters, how do those results tally on the field versus the next one with the 3 rounds of the row and the overhead squat? Because to me, the stimulus overall is, the tests are different and the modalities are different, but the stimulus overall is similar. Like I'm getting squat and erg, and I'm getting squat and I'm getting run.
And it's that overhead shoulder fatigue.
Yeah. So that would be my only criticism, is like when I look at that, I'd like, I might want to tweak it just a little bit, just so that those feel and appear a little different on paper, and then from a stimulus perspective on the athletes. But I'll get proven wrong in some way, where there'll be a team that like does really well and then a team that does terrible at the next one. But to me, they're kind of synonymous in regards to the way they play out. So I'd like to see a little variance between those two.
Bill?
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a really good point. Obviously, the difference is that the team on the first one is going to be going all together, so you have the full team moving, whereas the other one's going to be in sets of pairs, so you kind of break them up a little bit. But I like that point of very similar movement patterns and metabolic engine work at the same time between those two. I like the fact that you noticed, Chase, about the highly gymnastic and then the highly weightlifting, and then the more metabolic between those 3 movements. But I think that I still believe that it's still too early to be specializing that way. I wish they would have blended those up a little bit more for a more general fitness as we get into the CrossFit Games, to where then we can really go, okay, well, now let's test your pure gymnast. Now let's test your pure.
Well, you're right, because it wasn't
weightlifting,
pure gymnastics and pure, say, monostructural or endurance, like
right.
On the other two, where the weightlifting one is just pure weightlifting.
Pure. I mean, that's not I think that's completely messed up. It's things that I'm noticing when I'm looking at it. I do like the fact that I think they have a decent variance between how they're working with the team. Worm heavy. It was so cool when the worm was brought in. There's got to be another implement that we can come up with, because that thing has made its way through every team competition. That, like, if you want to be a team and you don't have a worm or different versions of the worm, then you just have no idea how to be a team, because that is 80% of the workouts, it seems like, that end up coming out. So, but I think it'll be really fun to watch the teams. I'm anxious to see what the fine print is going to look like on these events. I really am, especially that overhead squat one.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting. And as we said, it's like, can make or break some of these events as far as game planning forward. You're just going to have to completely change what the plan is. Well, as Mr. Spin is giving us crap for talking about teams for this long, that actually concludes what we're doing here. Adrian, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I know you're super busy, Ben. I just wanted to play it one more time.
Damn, Rod, come on! What's the matter with you?
Tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
There is a tomorrow for us, thankfully, and coming back later this week. Got a lot on the show. Thank you, Adrian Conway. Bill, good to see you. We'll see you guys later this week. Big week, a lot of things coming up. CrossFit Jeopardy coming back on Friday. See y'all.